Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jade and today I'm going to do a recent reads video. I have been real busy with college, but I have got a lot of reading done primarily because I have to. I took an English class, a women's literature class. Needless to say, these are all the books I read for that class this semester that I've read recently, basically. I might have mentioned like one or two of them. I might have mentioned Frankenstein. This was the first book I read all the way back when the semester started. Was an interesting experience. Do I like it? It's not what I expected. It was like a classic. I guess that's all I can say is like it just read like a classic. It made sense like a classic does. It was okay. Then I read My Antonia by Willa Carter, and I actually liked this. This takes place in the great American West, where everyone was farming and starting their own life, and it's basically just kind of following a boy who is like really romantic, takes care of the ladies. He's a child though, so like not in a creepy way. It's like just a good kid, and like follows his life, and then his neighbor Antonia, who he kind of is in love with, I would say, and is just like fondly remembering their times growing up in the great frontier together. It was actually kind of a good read. The next one I read was that's the next one. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. This is like an essay about women needing to have a certain amount of money every month and a room where they can lock the door to be able to be authors. So it's kind of like talking about how men keep women back and stuff like that from when the Victorian times and that was the thing. Wow, I am not describing these well, but also it's like reading someone talk at you, low-key. I did enjoy it though because it was cool to kind of see what feminism was like before it was okay to be a woman. So that was actually cool, and I do think Virginia Woolf is pretty interesting in the life she lived. I don't regret reading it, but I also don't remember a lot of it, so makes sense. That's probably all of these books. The next book I read was The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cosnerno. This is about a girl who lives on Mango Street, and it's kind of talks about her whole neighborhood and what it's like for everyone, and it's kind of difficult because where she lives is not nice, but it's full of nice people. So it sort of talks about how like where you grow up kind of can impact your life, and the reason the author wrote it is because she wants to give back to Mango Street, like where she grew up, and like help the people who helped her grow up. And it's really short, and I mean it's a good read. I also don't really remember it, so makes sense. I didn't really enjoy any of these books besides My Antonia. The next book we technically read was The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. I don't have this on my Goodreads because I didn't finish it, because I was not in the mood to be reading. I was too stressed out. I got a decent way into this book though, enough to where I could write a essay on it, but it's not like a finished, and it never will be. It's a book about a girl, like, you know, ye olden times, kind of a girl that wants to be a guy, dresses like a guy, acts like a guy. Her father loves her. Her mother thinks she's weird and can't put her finger on it. And then when she finds out that she's gay, her mother's like, I always knew there was something wrong with you. You're a disgrace to your father. You can never walk in this house again. And so like I just don't want to read that, honestly. I read enough books about awful families putting down people for being who they are, and I do think that they're like important reads, but I don't want to keep reading them that much, so I put that one down. This is the other book that I didn't really finish. It's only these two. It's my biggest ones too. This is Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich. This is also not on my Goodreads. I read some of it. It's like short stories, all kind of following a family. It's Native American family, and basically about how their lives have been affected and what it's like to live on a reservation and that kind of stuff. I've read a lot of books like this because I took a Native American literature class. I'm unfolding all the stories that I didn't have to read because we had a lot of stories for some reason for this book that we did not have to read, so I folded them so I wouldn't. But so I did appreciate this book because I understood all of its themes, because I've really like delved in deep to kind of a lot of the themes surrounding these sorts of stories, and it was really good. It's the winner of the National Book Circuit Critics Circle Award. I just wasn't in a good place to want to read this, so that was a fun time. One book that I did read in completion in like an hour and a half was Push by Sapphire. This is, if you've ever seen the movie Precious, this is the book it's based off of. It's a really hard novel to read, and I'm gonna put up a warning for sexual assault in this book, because that is the theme of this book. Is she's assaulted by a father, and she has a baby when she's 11 and another one when she's 16 by him, and her leaving her abusive mother and getting her own place for herself and learning how to read, because she never learned how to read. So she gets put in a different school where she can finally start to excel and live her own life, and it's really good. It's hard to read though, and I don't recommend it for everyone for that reason, but it is a really good book, a winner of so many awards, both book and movie. Good time. That's probably the best one I read in this class. And then the last one I had to read was Open Secrets by Alice Munro. But I don't even remember. This is another short story collection. I don't Bro, I don't low-key, I know I did not really read a lot of this, but I read some of the short stories in here. There are actually some really good short stories, I think, but I literally don't remember what it's about at all. I think it like talks about kind of, I don't even know. So good overall in our English class. We're gonna get, well, we have 2 more stupid things to mention, and then 4 real books. Not that any of these aren't real books, but I read the entirety of this textbook, Principles of Environmental Science. So, literally read every page. Oh, I'm terrified for our future. We're fucked. A lot of bad things are gonna happen. You know, in 2050, a bunch of the world will have water scarcity now. A bunch of countries. We have like 12% of countries with water scarcity now, and it's supposed to be like 65% by 2050. So that's a great sign. Also, all of our coral reefs will be dead by 2050, which will cost $1 trillion or more from the stock market, so it'll cause a complete crash. More than 2 billion people will be without their food source, and we won't have a fishing industry anymore, or basically anything in our ocean, because everything relies on coral reefs to live. So yay us for global warming. The reason it's happening is temperature increase in the ocean. If it goes more than 2 degrees Fahrenheit, the coral bleaches and dies. So the other one I read was a little bit less devastating, and it's Images of the Past. It's less devastating because it was our past. This is my archaeology textbook, so it's kind of like the really important archaeological sites from all over the world. It was actually really interesting, but I did read this entire thing as well, which is crazy because I've never even really had to read out of a textbook at all for most of my college career, and this semester I had to completely read 2, but they were also super interesting, so I didn't mind. Now for the books I actually enjoyed. These I read a long time ago, but I've never talked about them because I haven't really done a wrap-up since, so I thought I should. I read The Star of the Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is a good book. I enjoyed this. It's a different story. Hello guys, sorry, my mother rudely called and interrupted my whole process. I'm kidding. I mean, she did call me, but it's not entirely rude, just irritating. Kidding. Okay, I read this book. I think it's like a 4.5-star book. I think it's really whimsical and beautiful, and I really enjoyed the world building, and I love that. And I think that's the point of this book, is to just enjoy a whimsical, beautiful world. So I think it did really good on that. Is it a story that will stick with me though? No, because I don't think it's needs to. It's like a really complex story involving many different facets, but it's also just happening because of the world. And it's a story that revolves around just like the secret library. So I feel like the point of this book is honestly just to talk about this really awesome underground library. I love it. I am awful at describing things today, but also I don't even know how I really feel about the book because I do really love it, but I also feel like I'm never going to reread it, if that makes sense. Like, it's a story I enjoyed and I'm glad I read it, but I'm not going to like ever feel the need to reread it. I think I'm in an awful mood today, but like I'm not. The next book I read was Waking the Witch by Pam Grossman, Reflections on Women, Magic, and Power. And so this was really cool. It basically took like media influences on the stereotypical witch and how they influenced that development. So they talk about a bunch of different things like the movie The Craft, the show Sabrina the Witch, as well as Charmed. It also talks about kind of like ancient influences on the witch and stuff like that, and just like how social perception has changed over time about like the term witch, which I think was really interesting. It was pretty good. It's sort of just like a social commentary on how the word witch has evolved, which is actually something really interesting if anyone's into like linguistic anthropology or anthropology and just kind of seeing what led to how things are now. This is kind of a cool way to look at that. So I did really enjoy that. And then we read some fun books that I really loved. I read The Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan, so I finally finished it because I had put it down a little while ago, like a few months ago, and I was like, I need to finish this book, and I love it, so, and I'm so glad I finished it. It was such a good time. I actually had a sticky tab during the end because I was getting so excited, so, just at the end though, there's like so many quotes in this book too, and that's what most of these tabs are, is just like me being like, wow, Rick Riordan just hitting us with that humor. So we have Percy couldn't believe he was talking about the end of the world with a loaf of Wonder Bread in his hand. Like, you know, just stuff that I was like, you know, good point. Or the Wonder Bread comes up later. Oh my god, that's so funny. Or like the first part of the chapter, things went wrong immediately. And like, yeah, I just love that kind of humor because I can just see it all happening. I'm like, of course it would. I'm crying already. This book makes me happy. The next book I read, this is actually the most exciting thing I've read to me because I don't care about most of these books. But I read The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I love this book, and I'm low-key pissed that all the reviews of this book were like, oh, it doesn't really have vampires till the very end, so like what's the point of this book when they sold it to you like a vampire book? And it's like, it's the first book of a series. It's introducing the world. There are vampires throughout the entire book, so I don't know where that came from. Sure, they are like not the main character, but they are around the main character. And sure, they're not like, you don't see them going around killing people, but does that matter? Do you need to? Well, you kind of do. You see one going around killing people. That's like the point. People are being murdered. It's New Orleans. In 1862, a girl goes to a nunnery to kind of get married. Apparently, nunneries also would help you get good matches, which I didn't know. So that was cool to learn. So she's basically working at this nunnery to get a new match. She gets this opportunity because she is a really good dressmaker. And she gets involved in this whole other world. and it's so good. Everything about this book was extremely tailored for me. For one, New Orleans in Victorian time. I love how I'm gonna be counting down like this. Don't comment. I've decided to. So, New Orleans in Victorian time, love it. The fashion, the way they talk, the way everything looks, that's one of my favorite things to have in books. Having any like supernatural stuff that is like super elegant too, like the vampires are in this book, love that. A dark, steamy romance, love that. And then like murder and mayhem, yes, this book is so good. I'm 5 out of 5 stars. I cannot wait for the rest of the series to come out. I'm extremely excited, and I am really mad at kind of the way booktube made me think about this book. So I'm glad I read it for myself, and I definitely gonna be on a contender for the favorite of the year, just because it ticks all my boxes, my dude. The only box that I have left that it doesn't tick is like takes place on an island, but it ticks a different box of like New Orleans, so it's fine. The last book I have in this mini book haul is a book that I've reread many a times, but not since my middle school years, which is funny reading it now. And it's I'm the Vampire, That's Why by Michael Bradley. This is a romance, steamy smut book, but with like really cool supernatural stuff. So basically what happens is this town, 11 people get attacked and die because of this thing that attacks them, and they get turned into vampires. And it turns out that their whole town is called Broken Heart, and it's slowly been like people have been leaving and the population is dwindling. It turns out that this place called like the dude, I can't actually pronounce what it's called. Um but like a place that wants to unite humans and supernaturals and give a safe place for supernaturals to live until they can eventually reach their goal of like living with humans, because humans don't know they exist. They want to make this town a place where they can go, which is convenient that they turned a lot of the population to vampires. And basically what happens for the rest of the series is like you get the fun like drama of like them trying to build this town for supernaturals and people are against them and trying to fight off this plague that's killing vampires. But in every book, there's a new romance and a new people fall in love. And I love that so much. And it's like also a big deal because when you mate with someone, so when you have sex, you're stuck with them for 100 years, so it's like a big decision before you can go there. So there's a lot of like angst, and it's a good time. And I read this book in like 3 hours, which is something I really have learned to appreciate from romance books. Is like I just want to keep reading. And I read through it so much faster. For one, I think it's because like smaller than like this in size and bigger text. So I'm all for it because it makes me feel better about my life and it's a good time. Really smutty though, which makes it better as well. But that's all I have for you guys. My next video, hopefully I will be more into it. This is me getting back into filming videos. But I'm excited for what's to come. I kind of want to almost do like some sort of secret TBR or something. Like some sort of fun video challenge. I'm gonna brainstorm for the rest of the day on like a bunch of fun zip videos I can do this summer. I think that would be so much fun. But I love you all so very much. If you like this video, leave me a like down below. Feel free to tell me in the comments some cool videos you'd like to see from me about like anything. Don't care. Any ideas. I think that'd be fun to do. And any really good books you've read recently. I'd like to hear that too. And I'm gonna see you all later. Bye guys!